CMMS Radio talks about all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, focused on maintenance management. It's the people, the process, and the culture that make your CMMS journey a success. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Today, we're joined again by Alex Cummings. He's the CEO of FlowPath Facility Management Platform, and we've been working on having this meeting, but there were some things they were working on there at FlowPath. A lot of people know that I'm a big fan of FlowPath, and I encourage people to look at them if you're doing things with integrated facilities management, especially multi-site retail, anything with schools and universities, and that's all based on experience. That's really not so much an advertisement, but more of something I want you to do is get to know these folks. But Alex, first of all, welcome back to CMMS Radio.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. It's awesome to be back on the channel here. Gosh, it's been quite a while now, which is my fault. Because you keep asking me to come on. I'm like, wait, we've got some really cool things coming up in the pipeline. We always have cool things coming on in the pipeline, so maybe I should just do this more frequently.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. So, people talk to me when we're not recording and I'm having meetings, and they'll say, well, hey, who's this over here? And I say, look, they remind me a lot of what I used to do, but in the modern age, right? Because when I was in the space in CMMS, I started over 20 years ago. And, now we're here in 2024. In the last couple of years, you guys have done a lot of things and operate in a way that I really appreciate. So, that's the thing. You've been busy working on all this stuff, and I stay in touch with Brandon and Griffin as well, and a couple of the other team members. One of the things that I really am excited to talk about today is you've got some brand new functionality around AI. A lot of people know that I will talk about AI being kind of surface level, doesn't really do much. We got to wait and see. But you guys developed something that was very intentional around how you could leverage AI so that you could essentially talk to your CMMS, which I think is awesome. And I want to hear a little bit about how that came to be, what that's looking like, and we'll just kind of chop it up about that.
Yeah, that all sounds great. Yeah, I mean, we have been providing a maintenance management software that's very intuitive for users to use for almost 4 years now. We've got over 100 customers, primarily in education verticals, universities and K-12, a lot of commercial, multi-site retail, as you mentioned. But across the board, when you look at the outcomes required of a maintenance management system, but from our customers, which is a broad smattering of verticals, the outcomes are kind of similar, and you can draw patterns against it. And so, as the development of OpenAI and GPT models became basically democratized, and you had accessibility to them to plug them into software and use them however you needed, we took an outcomes-based approach to how we wanted to apply it. And what got us excited was the application to really streamline workflows, to alleviate pain points, and to actually perform work alongside you as effectively an assistant would, or maybe a consultant that you would hire. And those really are two of the most analogous things. We thought about this being, one, a personal assistant for every user on the FlowPath platform, but then two, for the power users, because we can talk about this in a bit, but there's different kind of layers to our functionality in FlowPath AI Assistant that you can turn on by each user profile. For the power users, it really is kind of like your own personal maintenance and facilities consultant that our larger clients and customers hire to come in and do all of this work. And it's one time, it's static, documentation is handed over, and then they're expected to kind of manage it going forward. Maybe there's ongoing relationships with consultants, and that there's nothing to be said about the quality of work performed or the relationships there. This is not meant to replace it. It's meant to augment and strengthen and provide a more constant touch and feel in a sense of, how a consultant can help a client. And so with those two things in mind, we set about what would be the best way to approach putting AI in our platform. And we'd seen some competitors in the market last year even kind of come to market with, an AI list builder of like what to do when you're checking off, some kind of reliability thing on an asset. Cool. We saw a few others that, IBMs of the world that have Maximo and, their IBM Watson plugged into it. And there's, obvious kind of use case there for the larger enterprise NASAs of the world. But for our customer base, kind of the SMB market, the longer tail of every market on the maintenance facility side, the 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 use case extended beyond just single functionality of let's create a list or let me create an asset page and then take a photo of a serial number pad and just populate data fields. Character recognition's been around forever. And so like there's some things that have, like you said, may just have like AI associated to it. And it's just this light use case and it's a single point of functionality. It doesn't really help with a lot of stuff or use cases. And it certainly doesn't kind of match how we wanted to apply it to FlowPath to really kind of 10x the value received from it. So that's what AI is supposed to do. It really is supposed to just really transform how you work and are able to perform work. So we decided that the interaction, allowing the AI to be able to perform work in the system is the key component. To be able to achieve the outcome that is your business outcome or your personal outcome that you look for. I talked about what outcomes our customers need, whether that's setting up full preventive maintenance plans or having strong asset management lifecycle data to be able to make budget decisions in the long term. Mapping out all those things, we decided that plugging in GPT across the board and making FlowPath really just fundamentally changed to be an AI powered platform is the approach we wanted to take. And it took a while and it took a lot of resources, but now we have announced the release of kind of the beta version. And as we solicited what we have and how it's going to work and what it's going to perform with all of our customers, we initially asked, for 10 or so beta customers to test it out over a couple of months, help us learn, dial it in a bit. But we've had close to 40 raise their hands voluntarily and have had a lot of great response with how they would use it out of the gate and what problems it would solve for them. And it really is across the board. I have more marketing content than I need already, and it's barely in the hands of a few customers yet because we are onboarding one at a time.
Right.
And so it really is a cool thing to see just the excitement generated around little things that can help alleviate a huge administrative burden from punching in, data into the system to a lot of different functional use cases, which I'm sure we'll kind of jump into here. So that's the long story long, I guess, is we took that holistic approach of how do we want to apply it? What is it going to solve? And what resources are available out there to allow us to do it? And so we jumped in head first and we've come out with this amazing product that really integrates AI into the entire system. And so that is a big difference between FlowPath and what we think is literally everybody else in the market.
Well, and it sounds like, when I imagine this, there's a lot of buzz around this. It's new, so to speak. I mean, if we really dig in and we look at the history of how things, come to market, things that exist out there, things like machine learning, which relates to AI and all this, we can really spin out. And I'll often talk about on the podcast, ooh, new shiny stuff. Oh, it's cool new tech. You have to have it. And I know we mentioned earlier that it's been about a year since you've actually been on the podcast. And we were talking about this last year. And I was asking, not on recorded sessions, but in some of the meetings, because you and I used to have a regular cadence for that, where I'd ask what you guys are doing with AI. And I can remember specifically being told, not just by you, but even when I was talking to Brandon or maybe Griffin, where we want to look at that, but we want to understand how, why, where we're going to place that within the system so that it actually does something. And I really do remember that being the case. So it sounds like you've done that. And I like the idea that it's an assistant that is, it sounds to me like it's going to continue to learn. So does it work in a way where, let's say I'm a client, I'm using FlowPath Facility Management Platform. I'm leveraging this for, I know it does, you can do incredible stuff with multi-asset uploads through image capture. And then there's other functionality. And I think that was related to being able to actually talk to the system to do diagnoses. Will it learn along the way, like within my account, or does it go platform wide? Anything like that you can talk about?
Yeah. So there is so much to dive into around that. And so FlowPath itself now being fully connected to AI means really it's kind of a sidebar in the whole system. So wherever you go in FlowPath, whether you're in your assets page or your work orders, whether you're within the work order itself, or on the reporting page inside a report, the AI assistant is going to be there, and it will populate suggestions for how it can one manipulate the data or things you should be thinking about as you're on this page, things it can do. You can ask it or type for it to do. And so when you're on the work order homepage, you can do things like tell it to change the category of a work order or create a new work order and assign it to Alex. Close work orders, whatever you need it to do. Um, but it's also a broader tool across the system. So I'll send you a nice little screenshot. If you're just sitting on the homepage and you've got a question you want to ask it, you're thinking about something of, a work order just came in for maybe a chiller that went down, and you can, within the work order, you see the asset description and everything else. And maybe you don't have any information for that asset. You can ask the assistant, hey, what's a general kind of preventive maintenance checklist that I should be running through, or maybe a triage checklist of how I should approach diagnosing the problem within this chiller. And it's going to return back everything that the GPT models connected to the internet via OpenAI are going to be able to solicit and pull in. And as you are working through it, and as you continue to feed it your information, which is only in your account, it doesn't go live anywhere else in the universe, your models associated to your account get smarter. So it will be quicker to pick up on actions that you want to take. And you can actually build into it smart workflows. So it can, in the background, be monitoring things going on. And an example, in this screenshot I'll send you, is you can ask it a question like, tell me everything about a particular inventory item in FlowPath. Tell me everything about it. And so I think the one we asked it about was some coolant in the system. And it came back with this nice little paragraph with a bunch of bullet points and a lot of information around it. But the cool thing was it was saying things like how many units and quantities of the coolant was available at which locations. And maybe it actually pointed out that there may be a redundant coolant item descriptor across another inventory item that we may need to look at. And then it was saying purchases across the last 3 months have slowed down based on volumes of usage across work orders. There's just all this like rich data that came bubbling up about usage of an inventory item, where it's located, maybe. And then from there, you can do a lot of stuff. You can ask it again of like, hey, give me a report on whatever you need about usage of this across different locations. Or you could even ask it to update the system. Hey, redistribute and update those across all 4 locations where they're located, so each has an equal amount, and it will do that. So if you're telling your team in real life to go do something and it's happening, you can then go tell the assistant to reflect it in your inventory in real time, and it will go do it. And so that's what we mean by it. It can complete actions for you from your homepage. You can tell it to go do things. It will return back the view of, this is confirming this is what you want to do, and you just click accept, and it will go do it. The next step there is it can be monitoring those things in real time and actually perform that work for you. So you can build what we call workflows. So it's more than the if this then that statement. It's monitoring real-time usage of inventory or real-time work being performed on assets. And conditionally, then it's taking actions for you, bubbling that up in reports or giving you notifications the next day or on a periodic basis of things that are happening. And so in real time, as you're performing your preventive maintenance action plans, or all of your emergent work orders are coming in, you know maybe you need it to be monitoring, when is my team overworked, or when are we approaching our overtime hour limit that we have
Hmm.
set for the month. When what For things I need to know about, when are these things happening in the system, so I don't have to go find them or maybe pull a report or remember to go run a report. Like, it can be monitoring it for you.
So within my account, the things I'm typically going to go and search for, it can do that for me. So like in my world, it was always about, what work orders are active, what work orders have been completed, what did they cost, labor, materials, et cetera, et cetera. And then I might even want to say, go look at a report that shows me asset repair detail costs. How many assets were worked on? What kind of work was it? Was it demand work, like corrective responses, or was
Yep.
it preventive maintenance? And I can literally talk to it and tell it to go find this for me. Or while I'm doing my work, it'll make suggestions if I'm leveraging the FlowPath AI assistant.
Yep,
Wow.
100%. And so the again, the concept, if you've ever interacted with ChatGPT, it feels very similar. So you can feed ChatGPT data tables and ask it questions about those data tables. That concept applies. FlowPath data is in a data table in your account. It basically is connected to a GPT agent that can then extract details around it, and you ask it real questions. And that's where the AI comes in. It's the language processing, it's the understanding of how to interpret the data. But that's where the challenge has been, because we've had to create definitions for OpenAI models of how to understand data in FlowPath. So when you ask it
Mm.
about your inventory, or you ask it about your assets or your categories or your locations or your accounts or anything else that's in the system that FlowPath calls something one name, the GPT model understands how to interact with it and what that thing is. And so then that's why this is powerful, but it also took such a long time, because we had to we had to define every single little string of text in the system that it could interact with. So it knew when you asked it to go do something, what you were talking about, and then where to go find that information, and then where to go take action on that information. And so that is the big thing. That is the thing that takes a lot of time, and we've solved that, uh, to be able to release it to the wild. And that's where the power comes from, because you can now interact kind of on a meta level with your CMMS, unlike anything else. And yes, when you're in the field, you can talk to it. There's a little button. You would press it either in the work order to verbally add some notes. It would add the notes to the work order. You could tell it, hey, add this note, and then change the categories or the status to completed. Tag, Greg as an approver. Let him know this is finished. Send an email to X, Y, and Z, and then you hit complete, and then it does all those actions for you, and you move on to your next job.
Interesting. So when it comes to that, I've always wondered, once we get to this point where we can truly talk to our CMMS, so to speak, will there be at some point, and this is more of a curiosity, where it can talk back, not just looking at a screen, but I'm thinking about, frontline workforce or operators. We're out there working on equipment. Maybe we're diagnosing something, but when we're doing something, our hands are tied up. I wonder if that would ever be the case. Or it sounds like already I could just have it there and talk to it while I'm doing my stuff. Is that already the case? And then do you think later it might eventually be able to talk back so I don't have to look at the screen? Or am I getting a little too out there?
No, you're not getting too out there. ChatGPT can already talk to you, and so the the I think it's just a matter of time before we have some similar functionality of it kind of responding to you in normal, voice. Um, but you kind of hit it the nail on the head, right? The technicians out in the field are the ones that are going to be most served by this particular use case, because the interaction with the phone is just kind of a hang up sometimes when you're needing to get to the next item of work. And so to be able to close it out with your voice, easy one click, submit the information you need, and then move about your days is really, really simple. And that's just for the work orders, right? And then you mentioned earlier uh, the asset creation component. And so as you're taking in new campuses, you're taking in, new items, you can take photos of all these serial number plates and even just photos of the asset itself and tell the system to create a unique asset for every picture that you've uploaded. It will create unique assets. It will populate those asset fields. It will add the photo to that asset. That's nice. I've got all these assets created. Um, and I just needed to upload some photos. And so I think I gave you a video of that you can kind of show as well when we're talking through this. But, it's like, great. So I've got all these assets in there now. What? Well, if you go into the asset, FlowPath AI will then go, hey, it looks like you've got some data fields empty. Would you like me to enrich the estimated lifespan, end date of this item, right? Because it's read now the manufacture date. It can see, great, let me give you a kind of a useful lifetime expectancy. It will populate that. It will populate lots of information that FlowPath can capture around that. It can also give you suggestions for preventive maintenance lists and then build them into the task list within FlowPath to then execute preventive maintenance work triggers. And so
This
then
is
you've got
important.
not only the asset creation, you've got the enrichment of the data to then be able to make preventive maintenance lifecycle decisions. You can see budget expectations against that lifecycle, and then you can ask it to pull reports across classes of assets. The other fun thing in the data enrichment process is it can look at your full database of assets, and you can tell it, based on whatever kind of variable you want, or just to kind of generally use naming conventions, categorize all of my assets accordingly into a correct asset class format. So then now I've got really nice, clean data to go pull reports on or to build budgets around or to understand. And so you can have it kind of really nicely shape your system. And literally that all happens super quick. In less than a minute, you can have a really clean database of information to start operating within. And then from there, you're just monitoring and having it every single day help you out along the way and be that resource for your team out in the field. And so again, it's just powerful.
Yeah, the I was going to interject when it comes to some of the things we see as challenges when it comes to the deployment process. So once we've got the system in place, maybe we've got some things set up and we're already using it, because it's nice, at least with this system, where you can do relatively quick deployment and start leveraging the platform just for day-to-day work orders and things like that. But one of the things I've heard for years and years, and I know you guys have as well, is, well, we've got to go and find, a lot of times people don't know what assets they have, and they now need to get those into the platform. And if there's a way to expedite that, and I would add the caveat, accurately, and now you're talking about being able to walk a facility, take these snapshots of nameplates, etc., and this will actually identify what it is, bring those data points in. That saves a lot of time. And then if any of it is off or inaccurate because AI maybe took what it could find and it wasn't quite correct, someone can then go back and look at that pretty easily and make an adjustment, and then it will then learn and go back and fix everything. Does that kind of make sense? I didn't ask that very well.
Well, to the first part of that, yes. Like a lot of our clients need to be able to capture assets that they know they have that's probably maybe not in the system, right? Because it is a lot of work going around capturing the detail. But um, so we have that as a huge use case, and then the population of fields within that asset page. Um, whether or not there's a field existing within FlowPath already for the data point, um, from the serial number plate or the nameplate. If there's not, the system captures it in the notes, so it's still searchable text. It's still reportable, uh, and then yes, it does. The system become smarter in a way, but also you become more familiar with how it actually operates too. And so then, based on the prompts that you give it when you're uploading photos, we have a predefined prompt list of update these fields. And so as we get smarter and as we continue to make iterations on FlowPath AI Assistant, we'll have better descriptors of what to perform, the prompts for what we're asking it to do based around the outcome that you're trying to achieve. And so that's what we're doing a beta test for, is to really hammer in, okay, you want to create assets, you're going to upload this picture. Right now, we can do that from the asset homepage, and you can do it either for single items or many items. But maybe you want to add more than one photo of the asset. And so we're going to go into the asset page and create some functionality with some unique new prompts there, and maybe give it a little different user interface to make it more obvious of how to do that. And so it's part of the system becoming smarter, but also us becoming smarter on the use case and making it easier to interact with. That's the big learning points for us in the coming months, which is with any kind of new function and feature that you release as a software. So we're excited about that part as well.
Yeah, yeah, and so now, you were kind of talking us through the video that I'm going to display previously about how we do multi-asset, but there's another video, and that's around the concept of talk to diagnose. Can you kind of talk us through what that clip is going to be showing us?
Yeah. So, I mean, really, you could be on an asset page, and if you had the asset page pulled up, it's got all the details there for it. So the assistant already knows what you're looking at. And at this point, you can just ask it, give me a list of troubleshooting steps to diagnose problems with this, or what should I be looking for over time? And it's going to come back in kind of real language, natural language ways of telling you in descriptive form, like what to be looking out for. It'll provide you a checklist, lots of detail and information. And you can just keep asking it more nuanced questions. And it can populate notes for you, to store those things, or you can copy them into checklists, or you can create checklists around it. Uh, so it really is that tool, right? It's that consultant resource. Now you can literally ask it anything about the asset you want, and it's going to return its best answer that it can find for you, which usually is a very in-depth response with a lot of great steps, and particularly troubleshooting. And so when you're asking it about certain pieces of equipment and whether or not, again, I think I was using a chiller example earlier, but you have it coming in, you can have troubleshooting diagnoses, questions, or return really nice responses for you to think about if you don't have any. And so that's one really good way to build kind of documentation manuals or operating manuals and create SOPs across your organization if you don't have them yet for the assets that are in the system or the assets that you're creating. Um, and the same thing for inventory. If you have some inventory, you're not sure what it's for, like you can ask it, like, what does this go to? And then you can create those relationships in the system between the asset and the component that fixes it. Um, and any other question you want about it, tensile strengths, or just, abnormal operating temperatures or vibratory patterns, whatever it may be. And so there's it's literally an unlimited possibility of questions,
Yeah.
which is why I'm so excited to watch our customers kind of use it and learn how they're using it. Because like I said, I already have, from talking to them initially, ask them if they want to use it and explaining, just like I am now, kind of how it works. There's just been
Mm.
so many light bulbs going off in their heads of how it can be helpful to them, that when it gets
Yeah.
put into real life use cases, like, it's going to be a really rich process of uh, material for us to write blogs about and to just kind of scream out into the ether, like how cool it is.
Yeah, and that's this is the thing about, being on this kind of, we'll call it a forefront. I mean, like I said, there's been some things around for a long, long time, but it's kind of a hot topic now. And what I'm always kind of cautioning is, let's see how it really develops before we get overexcited. But it's exciting. It's always exciting when you're innovating, if it's making a real impact. It's not just for the cool factor, it's actually being built for the, how can this be useful? How can this add value? And that's
Yeah.
what's really important to me. It's a little righteous, but you guys know that that's how I like to do things. I want real stuff that's going to make an impact. Curious about this one thing at the requester level, is the FlowPath AI assistant also involved or available? If I'm a requester, let's say I'm at a multi-site retail location, and I happen to be the manager, or someone in customer service at this retail location, and all I do is put in work requests. But before I'm doing it, could the AI be leveraged to tell me, hey, did you check this? Did you check this? Did you check this before I submit the work order? It'll already do that.
Yeah, so if your organization has it turned on for that user permission level, it absolutely would be available to ask it questions. And so not only questions about maybe assets or just the environment that that operator is in, but just for FlowPath itself, it's connected to our help center. And so if you're confused of how to do something or even to submit a how to submit a work request, it would show you how and give you the link to do it.
Very good.
But yeah, absolutely. Like for whatever the use case might be at that location, that manager could very easily ask questions pertaining to it within the AI assistant. And we have taken a lot of care to build guardrails too. So this is, I guess, a good segue to talk about it, right? So safety and kind of security of usage. If you ask it the latest, what happened in the game last night between, I guess, the Washington football team and the Cowboys, it's going to say, "Hey, I'm focused on maintenance and facilities management topics," and so it's been gated to where the functionality services the use case, and it's not just a broadly applicable AI tool that can be used in any other way, for better or worse there. And so we made sure that it is gated correctly and returns appropriate responses. Uh, and along that same vein, that the data is in transit encrypted and always lives within your account and always belongs to you. And so the GPT models that really kind of service as the machine kind of doing all the work don't understand what it's looking at, and it never lives outside of FlowPath. It's in transit the whole way until it returns back with a response. And so that's just the best level of security you can have when you're connected to AI. And then you have just a really strong gating process built into it to make sure that your team is focused on the right things.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. It's very exciting. I know you did the release at IFMA World Workplace, and I was able to get a little time with Griffin while he was there. It was like 10, 12 minutes, something like that, which was super cool. I'm so glad we finally got to do this because, again, it's a hot topic in the world of CMMS, maintenance management. How does it really make a difference? And we're going to be getting updates along the way. So I'm excited about that too. And I just want to thank you for making the time as you guys are really busy with working on all of this. And I love watching the FlowPath journey. And for everybody out there, you can check out FlowPath. There is a link that I'll put in the episode. You can always get connected with them, let them know CMMS Radio sent you. You get to work with Alex sometimes, maybe even Griffin, and they've got a whole team over there. So, Alex, thank you once again for being on CMMS Radio.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And we do have a lot of fast moving pieces here. So I think, maybe another episode or two on just updates along the way over the next couple months would definitely be appropriate if you're open to it. And I think the last thing I'll leave you with is that we're not charging for this AI. So I've seen some really egregious costs for AI tools out in the market with just little things, not maintenance management systems, but AI writing tools or
Oh,
marketing
yeah.
outreach tools, whatever it may be. And so we've thought about, one of our business mentors and investors asked us when we were talking about how do we go to market. He asked, is there anybody, any one of your customers that you wouldn't want to have this? And we're like, no, everybody needs this. Like we think this is truly a turning point in the industry. And he's like, well, then you need to give it to them and just
That-
get it into as many hands as possible, and don't let any kind of cost get in the way of that. And so we agree, and not that we were trying to like necessarily get rich from this anyways, but that was we were leaning towards that. Of this is we might even have to totally redo our marketing landing page now of FlowPath being truly just powered by AI. And so it is a core, like inherent functionality in FlowPath now. It comes out of the box. It's part of your platform fee when you
Nice,
sign up.
nice.
So we're excited about that.
I actually had that on the list, but when I get going, I stop looking at my list of points to cover. And uh, this is really, I used to come from a world where we want to give as much as we can to make it better and better and better, because that's how you get that longevity. You get to capture that elusive win-win that I'm always chirping about. And whoever that individual was, and I know you guys were already thinking in that way, I think that is a smart thing to do, because it's customer centric. It really empowers the people that are leveraging your platform for a lot of the things that keep the world turning anyway, whether they're in any of these environments. So that's good stuff. And we're going to keep the conversation going, and I'll be looking forward to the next update.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate it again, Greg. Thank you so much. It's been great being on here.
You got it, man. Always good to have you, Alex. Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.